Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. We are your hosts, Bull and P. Happy Friday, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff. I hope that everyone's got their Christmas shopping done. I know a lot of y'all probably going to be running around this weekend, getting those last few items, odds and ends done. And then, maybe you're waiting on some Amazon packages to get there, and I hope that everything gets there on time. P, are you done with all your Christmas shopping yet?
Yep, got it all done.
Sounds good. Yep, I did too. So that's good. We got that out of the way. This is one of the best times of the year, because there's so much going on as far as what's going on inside of that transfer portal, who is going to be committing to our schools. And then too, we've got bowl games and all that stuff. So in today's video, we will be updating you on all the news with Tennessee football. And also, we'll be talking about a couple of other things. We'll be taking a look at South Florida's offense. We're not really taking a look at it, but kind of talking about it. And then, also talking about what's going on with Florida State. Sounds like they're going to get up out of the ACC. So we've got a lot of stuff to get to. But let's start off with Tennessee in that transfer portal. We talked about it yesterday, Pete, that we got a huge pickup in Chris Brazzell. That's the 6'5", 195 wide receiver from Tulane. And last season he had, let me take a look at my notes. He had 45 catches, 722 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Didn't play much as a true freshman, but this is going to be his third season once he comes in 2024. Some of the things that he talked about was that, he really loved Nico. He loves, he would love to play in the SEC, and I'm sure that he is going to love it. He said that it just means more. And those types of things sound good, I think, coming from a guy that, we're going to be expecting some big plays from. Sounds like he is looking forward to those bright lights shining on. But P, I know we kind of touched on him briefly, but what do you see, Chris Brazzell bringing to this roster?
I mean, he's the outside guy you've been looking for. Big body, big frame, 6'5", about 200 pounds. Shows really good speed and good quickness, good quick twitch for a guy his length. Shows the ability to get off press man, can set it up with some double moves, things like that. I think he's more physical than people probably give him a little credit for. Makes tough catches across the middle, will take a big hit. Does all the things that you really want from a guy. I think he's going to be a willing blocker. You kind of watch him away from the ball. He shows good effort, chasing down plays, trying to get in on plays, make some blocks for his teammates. I think he's a plug-and-play guy. I think he comes in here regardless of if Brew comes back or not. I think he still is going to be a starter for this team next season. Now, one thing I'll say about him is I was reading, I guess, an interview 24/7 Sports did with him after he committed with us. It sounds like he wants to be a one-and-done guy, which, I respect that. These guys want to be one-and-done guys. But to me, it just kind of seems like he wants to come in here for 1 year, kind of, make a name for himself, get that draft stock up and leave. Hopefully we can get it for 2 years. But looks like he definitely wants to be a one-and-done type of guy. But definitely excited about what we can get from him at a 2024.
Yeah, for sure. And then, something else that he kind of touched on was he said, I would like to be gone in 1, but if it takes 2, then, at least I know Nico's still going to be here. So it's not completely out of the question that he will be one and done. I think that it probably would be more beneficial for both parties if he is one and done, because that means he came in, balled out. And, I think that would make some more room for us to get some more players of Chris's caliber. So, I'm fine with the man. I'm just super excited to be able to be, adding him to this roster. Like you said, if Brew does come back, you've got your 2 outside guys. And then, you've got Squirrel right there playing slot. I think that Mike Matthews can also play there. I think that Braylon Staley, I think that, Nathan is another guy that we always tend to overlook. But, he's more of an outside guy, but I do expect for him to bring a lot to this roster, and to this team in 2024. Now, somebody else that is rumored that Tennessee is targeting is Evan Stewart. Okay, 6 foot, 175-pound wide receiver from Texas A&M. All right, I'm about to tell y'all what his stats were for the past couple of seasons. Okay, he's got 91 catches, 1,163 yards, 6 touchdowns, obviously playing in the SEC, coming out of high school, okay, in the class of 22, 5-star, number 1 wide receiver in the entire country. Some of the teams that he was looking at, okay, he actually chose Texas first, and then he switched it up to TAMU. And, he took some visits to Alabama, LSU, Florida. So those are probably some of the schools that are still going to be fighting for his services. But it does sound like Tennessee's very interested. And, obviously with everybody that is going to be involved in this one, sounds like it's kind of a long shot. But, P, what do you think about adding another guy to this wide receiver room? Do you think that that's going to, we talked about it yesterday. Are some of these guys going to start transferring out? Like, do you think that's a smart move to add somebody else in like Evan Stewart?
I think it's a smart move on the field. I think he's an upgrade He's probably going to be your slot guy. I think he is an upgrade over Squirrel White. But I mean, it's just a tough situation. It's kind of like the coach, the kind of the coach in you that's kind of speaking right there. It's Squirrel's a guy that's coming here, done exactly what he's supposed to do, plays hard, and has been productive enough. Is he a guy that you want to just come in, bring a transfer portal guy in, and put him on the bench, behind Evan Stewart? I mean, like I said, Evan Stewart is an upgrade, and I think he would be. That'd be a huge get, having Evan Stewart, Chris Brazzell, maybe Brew McCoy as your receivers. I mean, that's 3 NFL caliber guys right there. But I mean, who else are we going to lose? Are we going to lose, Braylon Staley? Are we going to lose, any of those other guys kind of that are in the weeds waiting for the opportunity? Because I think we love Braylon Staley's upside. I like Squirrel White a lot too. A lot of those guys in that room, even a guy like Mike Matthews, like we like those guys. Would hate to see them transfer. So, I guess kind of wiggle my way around the question a little bit. If bringing in Evan Stewart means that we're going to lose a guy like Braylon Staley or maybe even like a Mike Matthews, I'd rather not get him. But if we can keep that whole receiver room intact and Heupel can find a way to actually get these guys in the rotation game after game, then yeah, I mean, bring him on board because I think he's a weapon that we need on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're going to talk more about, like we talked about to kind of start it off. We're going to talk about South Florida, what Golesh is doing down there, like what we kind of saw. But it does kind of look like Golesh is able to rotate his wide receivers a little bit more than we did. So maybe Heupel will kind of buy into that. But something else that I was just kind of thinking of is that could it mean that since we are targeting somebody else, could it possibly mean that that Brew's not coming back? Like maybe the staff knows, hey, maybe Brew, whether he wants to try to go to the NFL or maybe he's just done playing football. That's something that we don't know. But obviously they do. So to me, seeing us targeting another wide receiver, especially of that caliber, that does kind of speak to either they don't like some of the guys that they've already got inside of the room, or maybe Brew won't be coming back and we might need to add another body. Or maybe we're misjudging the whole situation. Maybe they feel like even if these guys come in, some of the other guys will stay, or maybe they want to get some of those other guys off the team. I'm not sure what it is, but to me, that's a little bit of a head scratcher, for sure. Now, on to the next guy that we're targeting in this transfer portal. We're going to talk about AJ Harris. Okay, 6'1", 190-pound cornerback coming from Georgia. Okay, I believe he was in the class of 23. He was the number 2 rated cornerback coming out of that class, and he looks really good on film. He's a very physical wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. Didn't play much for Georgia last season, but again, you have to kind of wonder with all the moves that have been made to that secondary, what does that mean moving forward? P, do you think that, similar situation, do you think that maybe we are kind of overplaying our hand just a taste, maybe being a little bit too greedy and going out and targeting too many people, or do you think that we're going to be just fine?
Yeah, I kind of think very similar, like we just talked about. I mean, we just brought in a corner and Gerard McCoy. We brought in a safety and Jacoby Thomas. You bring in another corner, and it seems like these 2 guys are bringing in, and McCoy, and if they bring in Harris, these are 2 guys that, I would assume they're expecting to start. Now, maybe one of them plays nickel or plays star, something like that. But we feel pretty good about guys like Jordan Matthews, Christian Conyers, the freshman that we brought in. So kind of like you just said about the receivers, us going out and targeting another guy, does that mean that we don't feel great about Jordan Matthews? Maybe some of those guys, maybe, this staff sees them every day in practice. So maybe they don't feel great about their upside or their long-term trajectory. And, if that's the case, then I'm kind of all for it. But, if these guys are who we thought they were going to be coming out of high school, I would rather give the guys you recruited, the guys that committed to your school out of high school, the guys that are, redshirt freshmen in your program, give them the opportunity to go out there and earn their spot before you go out and over-recruit them with the transfer guy from another Power 5 school. So, we'll kind of see how it plays out. I'm never going to say turn away talent, especially if it's a young guy, redshirt freshman like this guy's coming in as. But I don't know, man. It's kind of similar. Like it gives you a little bit of an uneasy feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it most definitely does. But I do think that he would be a tremendous star player. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because you can look at a lot of these guys and we're like, oh, man, he'd be good here. He'd be good here. But you've got to keep in mind that you've already got some players on your roster that will probably be able to stay with the team more long term. Now, that is one of the things that I can say about AJ Harris is that he is a younger guy. Now, he played in 8 games last season, so I don't think that he could redshirt. But he's coming in with possibly what I guess he could play for 3 more seasons, but he would probably just want to try to play 2 if he does choose us. But now he's from Phoenix City, so I think that's close to the Auburn area. They've got some strong Auburn ties there, so that's probably where he's going to end up at. We talk about Coach Freeze a lot. He's going to throw a whole lot of money at this kid, so that could have been the main reason that he's leaving from Georgia. That could be where he ends up at. But just like I think from a big picture look at everything, why are we targeting some of these guys? And I think it's a little bit mind-boggling in some situations. But P, to your point, it's hard to turn away talent. So there's a part of me that loves that we're looking at these guys, and there's another part of me that's like, well, what the hell are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, do we not trust these young guys? And that whole type of deal. Now, the next guy that I want to talk about, now this is in the 2025 class. Okay, George McIntyre, that's the 5-star quarterback from Brentwood. And he a lot of people think that he's coming to Tennessee. Okay, but he's also got LSU and Alabama. He's getting down to the point where he's about to choose his school. He will be choosing a school next month in January. But Pete, what do you think about him? Do you think Tennessee's got a pretty good chance? But what do you think about his game on the field as well?
Yeah, I think Tennessee's got to be the front runner, probably the team to beat in his recruitment. I think he's got a sister and maybe some other family that's going to Tennessee right now. I'm not sure. I think maybe his mom or dad, maybe both, went to Tennessee as well. So definitely Tennessee ties. He seems to be happy and comfortable when he comes on his visits, being around the guys. So I definitely think we're sitting in a good spot there. And if we want him, I think he's all ours. But you love his film, man. He makes all the throws. Very confident kid. Really seems like he's in control of that offense out there. What does he go about 6'5", 6'6"? A little bit. Yeah, a little bit slight build, but he's going to obviously get bigger. I mean, he's a guy, you're looking at a guy like, what's the quarterback for the Chargers? Justin Herbert. Probably similar build, a 6'6", probably 220, 230 type of guy. He really fills out his frame. I think he's a perfect fit and would be a perfect transition for him to come in Nico's junior season. He'll be a true freshman and have a chance to kind of sit, learn behind Nico, and go out there and compete with Jake Merklinger coming here and maybe, compete with him for that starting job as a redshirt freshman in 2026, whatever it ends up being. So, like him a lot. Definitely think, he's a guy we want to add. And hopefully, he commits to us here in about a month or so.
Yeah, that would be huge. He's definitely a guy that really, he's similar to Nico. He can actually move. His pocket presence is beautiful. That's very similar to Nico. He's a tall, long guy. He's got beautiful touch on his passes. He's got a good, strong arm. So I think he's going to fit into the system well. He also is a lot faster than he looks. He's able to cover a lot of ground whenever he does run. Looks like his offensive line is kind of, it's kind of tough. You know what I'm saying? Looks like he's having to deal with a whole lot of pressure right now. So, that's going to be a very interesting quarterback battle once he does get on campus, if he does choose Tennessee. But that's big news. I think that in that 2025 class, Tennessee's trending for so many good players. It's a really good year for the state of Tennessee, in that class. So, it seems like Tennessee's kind of leading for a lot of these guys in Tennessee, but also some of the big guys nationally. So if we can come out and have a big year this season, I think that's part of the reason that we're seeing, Coach Heupel going out and targeting some of these guys, because he says, hey, man, we've got some buzz going. Nico's coming in. We want to make sure that he's got all the tools that he needs. And, if we can make that playoff push, even potentially a national championship push, the way it's looking right now, then, we're trending right, and we can really capitalize on that 2025 class. So, I thought that one was really, really interesting. All right. So that's pretty much all the news that we have right now, for Tennessee on that front. Now, something else that we wanted to talk about was Alex Golesh in South Florida. They played in their bowl game last night versus Syracuse. It was the roofclaim.com bowl or something like that. So, so I don't know. But anyway, I really like how that offense looked. Okay. And, we've talked about this earlier in the season. Do we really miss Alex Golesh? Was it Alex Golesh? Was it Joe Milton? Was it a combination of all these things, with the offensive line and having the playmakers on the outside? But whenever you watch that offense, first off, they're moving at a fast pace, and there's a lot of wrinkles to what they're doing. And I really, really like that. I think that, obviously Coach Heupel and Coach Golesh are still buddies. So I do believe that we will see some wrinkles similar to what we saw out of South Florida moving forward. I think that Coach Heupel kind of looked at this season as and I hate to say it this way, but we kind of owe Joe Milton for, kind of sticking out with us And so we just kind of have to get by. But now it's going to open it back up in 2024. And, I think that we could see a lot of the same things that Coach Golesh showed last night. But, P, did you get a chance to take a look at that game?
Yeah. I checked that game out. Golesh looks good, man. He got those guys to, I think, 7 wins this year. They won 2 last year. He's done a great job in year 1 with the program that, has been kind of down the dumps, in recent history. We miss Golesh. He was a guy. I just think, he was obviously very articulate. Anytime you hear him in his interviews, really paints a picture. He was one of the interviews I look most forward to, week to week, was let me hear what Golesh has to say, because he's going to actually paint a picture that I can see. You know what I mean? So, just was a great visionary. You hear Austin Price and Brent Hubbs talk about him. He just seemed like a guy that was very demanding and really was very outspoken, and was like, hey, I don't like that. Let's do it this way. And he would stand firm on what he felt like was the right way. So I do think we miss him. I think it's kind of a polar opposite of what Halsey is. Halsey seems more passive, kind of more reserved, more laid back. Now, it was obviously his first year as kind of the OC, so we'll see if he can get a little more confidence heading into this next year. But I definitely think Heupel, I think this whole team misses Golesh, and I think Heupel needs to kind of steal some things from him, open up the playbook a little more, get a little more creative, continue to push that tempo, because Golesh, he didn't have a great quarterback either. That quarterback wasn't great. And I remember watching those guys early in the year, and I think I told you this yesterday. That quarterback, he looked pretty bad. But you watch him throughout the year, he got better and better and better. And I think that's part of Golesh in the way that he's kind of coaching these guys. And just his vision for the offense, just teaching them how to read things quick. If it's not there, look here. If it's not there, then run. Just the way that he operates, I think this team really misses that. Yeah, hopefully, Heupel and him are on the horn, and he's picking some ideas off of them and can incorporate that next year. Because with all the weapons we have coming in and coming back, we should be able to put up, 50 points a game. And if we don't, we're going to see next year, what was it, Joe, or was it kind of the offense missing Golesh? And so we'll find out next year, because Nico definitely has all the talent to score points.
Yeah. So something else that I kind of got from that was that I saw Golesh rotating his wide receivers a lot more. So. Rotating them a lot more than what we do. So that's something that I'm really hoping that Coach Heupel and the staff will implement this season, because as we keep on talking about, we've got to get these young guys in. We've got to rotate them, especially if, let's just say, we can go out and get a guy like Evan Stewart. Something like that does happen, then we've got to find a way to get everybody involved in this offense. And so I'm looking forward to it, because I know that Coach Heupel is going to utilize some of those things, in his offense next season. So, the future looks really, really bright. I think everything that we talked about that we needed to get changed going into this offseason, it seems like they're working to fix those things. And, I think as a Vol fan, man, we've all got to be super stoked about it. Now, something else, that I didn't mention in the earlier segment, but it does also pertain to us, is Jordan Seaton is, we are expecting that he may be announcing today. So if he does, it sounds like, and of course nobody really knows, and we touched on this some last night, but it sounds like it's going to be between Colorado, Maryland, and us. And then I think Oregon's also in there. So that's kind of what I've been reading, as of this morning. We'll keep a close eye out on that. By the time y'all see this video, he may have already chose. If he does choose us, obviously that's huge. I think that this class would move up. I believe we were like number 12 or something. I think we'll move up into the top 10 if he does pick us. But
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah. He'd be a big pickup. Obviously the off the field kind of stuff, the kind of the personality type stuff you have questions about. But I think in terms of just sheer football talent, he might be a plug and play guy. And if you get him, does he immediately? I'm not sure if he's an early enrollee or not, but does he immediately bump into the starting rotation and move a guy like Gerald Mincey, maybe moves into left guard for you or something like that? I think he's a talent. He comes in. I think he starts day one.
Yeah, no, okay. So now that is very interesting, because that's something else, right? We are still, I think we should at least be looking for another left guard. I don't really trust what we have out there right now. But if Seaton does come, then, maybe, like you said, Pete, we can move Mincey over to the left guard spot. And then also we've got some young guys, man. We've got some guys in that 23 class that have got to be able to step up. I'm hoping that battle plays out in a way that we can get some, or, we can find somebody that is more talented than what we thought coming into the season to step up into that role. That would be, for me, that would be the, best case for this team. So last thing that we're going to talk about today is Florida State calls a board of trustees meeting this morning, and Florida State laws, dictate that you've got to be public with those. So if y'all want to see it, it is on YouTube somewhere. I actually watched most of it earlier today, but it sounds like they're trying to get out of that ACC. Okay. And it just looks like there's some funny things in the contract with the ACC, and I think with ESPN, that is hindering Florida State from making the amount of money that they wanted to make. There's several other schools in the ACC that have been trying to leave. And, we all know that, obviously we've got NC State, we've got Clemson, and several other schools. So it looks like right here that the whole deal that Florida State's trying to challenge is the grant of rights. Okay. And that is, basically the deal inside of their, contracts with the ACC. They're challenging it, and some other, I guess teams and schools have tried to challenge it before, but they were not successful. Listening to the Board of Trustees meeting today does sound like, Florida State's lawyer feels like he's got a good argument and he's got a strong case. How well is that going to go over? We don't know. It's probably going to take them years to get that whole thing sorted out. But there's a lot of teams in the ACC that's rooting for Florida State to find some type of flaw in that grant of rights, because, like I said, a lot of guys are trying to get up out of there. And, Pete, what do you think is going to happen here if Florida State does decide to not look at the grant of rights and they just want to pay their way out? It's $120 million. So that's a whole lot of money, especially in the, in this era of NIL, you've got to pay all these guys. But, Pete, what do you think about Florida State? What do you think that they would end up landing? Is it going to be the SEC? Is it going to be the Big Ten, or what?
Well, I seen something, I don't know how true it was. It was on Twitter, so I got to take it with a grain of salt. But I seen something that the SEC has kind of already rejected Florida State. I don't know how true that is. But, if that's true, then obviously they'd go to the Big Ten most likely. But, I think they're going to find a way out of this contract. I really do, just because, they went 13-0 in their conference. Okay, I'm not sure about the whole money deal and that whole deal. But you go 13-0 in your Power 5 conference, and that's not even good enough for you to warrant you going to the daggone playoffs. So, I think they'll be able to kind of use that as leverage and be able to kind of negotiate their way out of that contract and move out and find somewhere else to land. And I think they deserve to, and I think other teams will follow suit. And now all of a sudden you go from a Power 5 to a Power 4 to now you're at a Power 3. I think the ACC, once Florida State gets out, I think that whole conference starts to kind of fall apart. I think Clemson probably the next team to get out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously there's more than the reasons that they talked about in that meeting. You know what I'm saying? And, well, they did kind of, they briefly touched on the whole deal with, about not making it into the playoffs. But, I feel like if the SEC doesn't want Florida State and Clemson, then we're going to fall so far behind what the Big Ten is doing. We see that their TV contract is already better than ours. They've already got more of a national scale audience because they've got guys, or they've got schools from coast to coast. The SEC is pretty much just Southeast. I think we've got to try to expand. And if not, then let's hog up all the Southeast teams. You know what I mean? Like all the good ones anyway. Why not go out and get them? I've heard that it could be Florida's trying to keep the other Florida schools out of it, but we cannot let one school, especially a school that's losing right now, dictate what happens with the future of this conference. So that is a little bit concerning, man. Like, shoot, if the Big Ten picks up Florida State and Clemson, SEC is going to be in trouble moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I kind of heard an interesting conversation with Josh Payton. I think it was Joel Klatt the other day. I don't know if you heard that one, but they're talking about kind of just the what's going to happen with the playoffs. With the SEC and the Big Ten being such competitive leagues now, much more competitive than any other conference. And they talked about kind of a deal where potentially the SEC and Big Ten could basically have their own playoffs, where they don't even really do the whole full playoff thing. They just kind of their own playoff. I think if you add in teams like Florida State, Clemson into the SEC, that just makes it such a deep conference. It's almost like whoever comes out of that conference is the daggum national champion pretty much. Yeah. And they brought up a great point. They said they could see it to where the conference championship, instead of it being between the top two teams in the league, it's more so between, team 4 and 5. And that's to see which one of those teams gets into the playoff. Because, if you're the top two teams, what sense does it make if you have to play an extra game? Because you're going to, whether you win or lose, you're going to still be in. And so that's really a good point. Maybe teams 4 and 5 play for it, especially if you add in 2 more teams two more high caliber teams. You got 18 teams in your conference. I think that makes a lot of sense. And so, I mean, college football could be changing as we know it here in the very near future.
Yeah, I mean, it's been changing, man. It's been changing over the past couple of seasons, and that I believe that the current contract is up in 2026. So we've only got, or it might be 2025, but it's ending here in the next couple of years. So things are going to look a lot different, but it's definitely kind of like an arms race to build up your conference going into whatever it's going to turn into. And I'm hoping that we hear some more news about the SEC targeting some of these schools and trying to broaden out, the TV audience and things like that, because we all know that the way that things are going is it's all about money. I mean, it's been that way for quite some time now, but I just don't want to see our conference fall behind, because then Tennessee will fall behind and it's just going to be more difficult for us to be able to win national championships. So that's where I'm at with that. But P, I think that's going to be it for this one, man. Thank y'all so much for tuning in as always. Please also consider becoming a member of this channel. Like we talk about all the time, we are going to be having a whole lot of player film breakdowns and some inside, notes and knowledge and things like that. But as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.